Hey friends, I hope you're having an awesome day and a joyous, happy, and free life, and that you are being a productive member of society. So, I wanted to talk today about the concept of surrender. Um, I heard in a speaker meeting not too long ago, and it was about surrender. I believe that it was about step three. I think it was a step three focused speaker meeting. And the speaker was saying, he was sort of explaining the concept of surrender. In a way that it had made sense to him, how he had come to apply surrender in his life, and it really resonated with me. So I wanted to talk about that for just a little bit. And so he described it, he likened it to surrender in war. He said, anybody listening to this has seen some sort of war movie or documentary, or depiction of war on a TV show or something. And when one side, one country or whatever the case may be, surrenders, when they finally give up, they realize that they have no shot in hell of winning this battle, and they surrender, they give up. What do? They don't just say, I give up, and they don't just sort of symbolically wave a white flag. Um, they they turn over every single weapon, every single means of offense and defense that they have in their possession. And then they just quietly and respectfully await instructions, if they're smart. I mean, otherwise, they want to die. But I mean, if they want to survive this skirmish, this battle that they have clearly lost, that's what they do. They turn over all of their weapons, and then they just quietly wait for instructions, from the person or party or country that they have surrendered to. And that's what we have to do in addiction. We have to surrender completely, to the fact that we are addicts, to the fact that we have the disease of addiction, to the fact that our lives have become unmanageable and that we are powerless to do anything about it. And in doing so, the only way that that's going to stick is if we turn over all of those weapons that we have inside of us for defense and offense. And that is not an easy thing for any of us to do. When you come into recovery, like the Jelly Roll song says, no one walks in these rooms on a winning streak. The life that you've led, the things that you have to survive as an addict, or an alcoholic, you develop these defense mechanisms and these offense strategies to survive, to live, to fight another day, and so if someone tells you you have to get rid of all of those, you have to turn those over, it's very scary, and it's something that a lot of us rebel against in the beginning. I certainly did. Those things had served me for 50 years. Had they served me well? Absolutely not. And I was very able to admit that. But they had served me. They had kept me alive, to see, another day. And so it's a very scary concept to give those up. And it's certainly not something that you can give up immediately. I can't speak for every addict on the planet, but anyone that tells me, I just came into the program, I came into the fellowship, and I just immediately turned my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood Him, and that was it. Um, I don't buy it, and because that's really the purpose of the steps. First, they help us come to understand, that we even have these sort of weapons inside of us, because a lot of times we don't see them as that. We really just see them as survival techniques, and as integral parts of our personality. You know, and it's scary when someone says you're going to have to get rid of things that make you, you and that have made you you for years and years and decades and decades. But we first have to be made aware that that's even the case, and the steps help us to realize that, and when you do a step 4 and you come face to face with the part that you have played in all of the areas of your life that you have resentments, with your family and friends and institutions and people, places, and things, and yourself, you start to see the patterns and the ways that you sort of used these weapons, these defensive and offensive weapons. Once you're aware of them, then you can begin the process of allowing them to be removed by your higher power. It is a process that you have to work in tandem, though, with your higher power. So you have to strive to recognize when, something happens and someone says something unpleasant to you and your defenses rise up and you start to fall back on one of those weapons, what we're not going to do, and you get riled up and, they going to learn today and stuff. We have to learn to put those down. And it's a daily process, especially in the beginning of recovery. Sometimes it's an hourly process. Sometimes it's a minute by minute process. But the beautiful thing about this is that you can start fresh. We've all heard that you can start fresh every day. Every day is a new day, but you can start fresh every minute if you need to. Just because the day is not going well and you are not acting as a person with solid recovery, you are walking solidly in your defects, doesn't mean that you have to keep doing that for the rest of the day. The day is not over and it's not ruined. It's kind of like when you're on a diet, and you're on this diet and you've been doing well on this diet for days, and then all of a sudden there comes a day where there's donuts in the break room at work, or you go into the gas station and you're just so fed up that you see a candy bar and grab it or something. And now you've screwed up your diet, right? A lot of our instincts in a situation like that is just to say, well, the diet's screwed for today. So now I'm just going to eat whatever I want. I'm going to have pizza and all the things, and I'll just try it again tomorrow. I'll get back on the horse tomorrow. But you don't have to do that, because you had the candy bar and that's not great for this diet that you're on. But if you spend the rest of the day after that candy bar having salad, or lean chicken, or a protein drink or something like that, you're going to be a lot better off tomorrow, and the scale is going to look a lot better than it does if you go, well, it's over, so I'm going to eat, a pizza and ice cream and donuts and all the things. And that's the same with our day. In regards to how we are conducting ourselves, how we are progressing through the day, how we are interacting with others. Just because you have a bad interaction with someone where you just come all out of your character and go all off and make a fool of yourself, doesn't mean the day is shot and now you might as well just, sort of be an asshole for the rest of the day. You can restart it and walk in your recovery for the rest of the day. And at the end of that day, still count it as a win, So that is something that takes time. It's something that I'm certainly not perfect in. I do believe that I have come past the time where I have to surrender and resurrender minute by minute, hour by hour, but I do have to do that daily. You know what I'm saying? And I take that very seriously, because if there's a day that comes where I wake up and I just feel like I don't need to surrender my will in my life because I got it, like I got it now, I can take it from here, that is the kiss of death to my recovery, and I will end up right back where I started from. And the literature tells us it will happen very, very fast. So that daily surrender is possibly even more important when things are going super well and you feel really strong in your recovery and that you've got it all figured out. That's when meetings and talking to your sponsor, working steps, and surrendering is that much more important. So this is not something that I'm trying to say is an easy process or an instantaneous change. Like I said, anyone that says that these sorts of things happen for them instantaneously, I think that they're lying or they're fooling themselves, but it is something that we need to work on every day. And it's not something that you necessarily have to wait until you're at that official step. And now this is what I mean by that, because I don't want anyone jumping down my throat. The steps are in order for a reason, and you certainly should not progress to officially working the steps until you and your sponsor think that you are ready. Personally, my sponsor and I made an agreement in the beginning that I was going to work the steps as slowly as necessary to get them fully ingrained in me. So we don't move past a step until I am living that step as well as the previous steps I've worked in my everyday life. And that takes time. Thus far, I think the longest time I spent on any one step was step 3. And that's because turning my will and my life over did not come easily. It's something that I do, I think, very consistently for the most part now, but I still struggle with it on occasion. But we spent plenty of time on that step, and we spend as much time as necessary on each step until we both believe that I am living that step in my daily, everyday life, daily choices, my walk, my talk, everything, before we move on. So step work is not just finishing the questions in a step working guide and reading them to your sponsor. It is applying those steps to all of your affairs. So, but that being said, there are certain things that you can do that are not official, step work. They're just things that you can do, like noticing when you're acting in an untoward, unbecoming way, bringing some awareness to that, and praying for the help and guidance to adjust that behavior. I believe that, while the official step for the daily inventory is 10, I don't think that there's anything wrong with sort of taking an account of your day and your life and all of that on a daily basis to keep yourself on track and keep your head straight. So the recovery house that I came to, where I discovered recovery and the fellowship and all of that, where it was introduced to me and where it became the foundation of my life. When you very first get there, the director gives you a copy of the NAIP, the Living the Program, and it is I think it's 40 questions. It's 40 or 41, and I do this almost every night, so it's funny that I don't remember it's 40 or 41, but it's an inventory for your recovery. And when you first get to this recovery house, you're required to do that IP every night for a week and turn it in. And then after that, you don't have to ever do it again, unless your sponsor wants you to. But I think that is an amazing thing to do to get addicts and alcoholics started out right away, assessing, where they're at with their surrender and where they're at with sort of reaching out to others in the program and things like that. So for me, I did not stop when the 7 days were over. I will be honest, when she first gave it to me, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I just walked in the door of this place. I just literally walked in the door and now I've got homework, but by the end of the 7 days, it was something that I decided to continue to do. And I have, and I do that now on my phone, because there's a website where you can type in your answers and then you can save them. So you have all your inventory stored up. You can look back on them if you want to. And I have to be honest, I do not do the full 40 question Living the Program IP every night. my life has become very blessed but very busy, and so there are some nights that I just don't get home until incredibly late, and I have to get up incredibly early. But so I have developed sort of a mini version for myself that I call my daily anchor, and I use that on the nights that I just don't have the time for the 40 questions, or I know that if I do attempt to do the 40 questions, I'll just zoom through them without giving them the attention that they deserve. But I always try to do that long version at least a couple times a week. At the end of the week is a good time to make sure to do that, just to really make sure you're dialed in for the next week. So those are things that I think that you can do no matter where you are in your recovery journey, is try to become more aware of when you're walking in those sorts of defense mechanisms and offense mechanisms that defined you as a person in your addiction. And then use some form of inventory, even if it's just right before you go to sleep, sort of reviewing your day and trying to look at the wins and the losses and how that applies to your recovery. I think that you will see a lot of growth in yourself and in your program if you adopt those things. But no matter what, keep surrendering. Like I said, every day we need to surrender. But as well, if you need to do it every hour, every minute, every second, do it as often as you need to get this program and make it a part of your life and a part of your soul. So that is all I have to say about that. I hope that you are blessed and just having an awesome day and an awesome life wherever you are. Drop me a comment about your thoughts on surrender, on inventory, on things like that. I'd love to hear where you're at in your recovery, and check me out for my next video. I have no idea what I'll talk about. That's part of the fun for me, is learning what I plan to talk about when I hit record. So we'll both discover together. All right. Thank you. Bye.